For today's book talk, I have Eve's Hollywood and Mrs. Dalloway. So it's been a while since I've read this one, but I wanted to put these two together. It just took me a while, unfortunately, to get through my reading goals. But they have like a weird, they have a weird crossover because Eve is basically going to a bunch of parties, and this book is about planning a party over the course of like a day. Well, not planning it necessarily, but people are preparing for a party. And both of them talk about the month of June a lot, and Eve even mentions, she even mentions Wolfe and comparing Wolfe's love of London to her love of Hollywood. So to start with Eve's Hollywood, it's kind of her argument or defense for Hollywood having culture. She drops a bunch of names. She's pretty vain. She judges other women a lot. She comes from kind of this family that's already rich and very involved in Hollywood, and so I feel like that's Hollywood culture, and there are gems there, and she does really lay herself out on the table and is honest about who she is and where she comes from and the kinds of things that she participates in. She went to Hollywood High, and she's just a very Hollywood person. So out of all the people to write about what that means, she's a great person to do that. And this isn't really a good book for understanding her significance in Hollywood because she did do a lot. This book talks more, and I didn't mention, but it's an autobiography. This book talks more about random moments throughout her life. I really enjoyed some of the ones from her middle school or high school years. She really likes people with blue eyes. I don't know, girl. She just always is talking about someone's blue eyes and how insane they are, and how when she talks about these people, she kind of turns them into the things she's describing. It's really interesting. Like, people kind of exist as their pet dog if they have a pet dog, and it's very beautiful the way she writes. It's very artistic and poetic. There's a lot of really great one-liners. I think my favorite, I'll read it, is their heart's desires were really paltry, and I guess they decided to take their chances with not taking any chances. And I really, really liked that line. And there's a few other ones like that in here for sure. So I did enjoy this a lot. The dedication pages at the beginning are stunning. And to Saturday, and to Nick at Custom Print, and to David Geiler, who couldn't have turned out the way Mr. Major wanted either, what with Nancy Kwan and everything, and to Fred Myro and his wife, Elena, in spite of the dinner, and to Alan King Moffat and Francis for my teeth, the best in the entire family. And she thanks sour cream, and strawberries and asparagus, and so many other things in her thank you dedication, and so many of them are clearly these inside jokes or memories for her that only her and the other person will recognize, and I like the way that it's kind of coded. So overall, some really good writing here, really great autobiography. I don't think you'll really understand her position in Hollywood so much, like who she was within that, but you do get some really great writing from her and see more personal stories from her. I don't know. I do think she succeeds at expressing that Hollywood has culture and LA has culture. I just don't know if it's a culture that I personally appreciate. Everything has a culture to it, but if you don't really like the name dropping, the vanity, the judgment of others, you might not enjoy reading this. And I don't personally really enjoy those things very much, but she does get away with it because of how beautifully and poetically she can write. So yeah, I don't know, this book confuses me when it comes to a rating. I just feel like it's different from other things that I've read. It's kind of just an anthology of personal stories, and even though I feel unsure about a rating, I would recommend this to people, especially young women who like pop culture and poetic writing. Now, Mrs. Dalloway is one that I've just finished, and so it's a little bit fresher on my mind. However, I did take a break. With Mrs. Dalloway, I felt confused. I felt confused at first by the way the narrative changes from person to person, because I think it's expressed as like, it's described as you following the mind of Mrs. Dalloway while she plans her party. However, you are not just in the mind of one person, one woman for the entire day. You go and see several people and their stories, but it's not super intense for the most part. Like, a lot of these people are just living very normal lives, but there's something that makes that even more powerful, that it's just very normal. And Wolf is very good at connecting you in that way to something that feels very natural and mundane, but so great in its mundanity, like so large and human and mortal. And I don't know, it's kind of abstract the way I'm explaining it. I feel like that happens when I try to explain what classics are like to read sometimes. They all kind of have their own energy and permanence, and that's why they're classics. Like, they just did something that is different and that you can't just put into so many words, because it's more of the feeling that it carries throughout. There's a doctor in the novel who describes another character's depression as a lack of proportion, and I really resonated with that description, and then, you know, disagree and agree with it. And I feel like the book kind of carries the same sentiment of figuring out what is human emotion and what does that have to do with our understanding of proportion and our own beliefs and disbeliefs. And like I said, that just sounds very vague, but I would also recommend this book because it can be slow at points, but you get to the end and you just have this strong feeling like you understand and you've felt this before, and this is what it is to exist as a human, but in a way that you don't feel so obviously just living your life most of the time. And getting to do it through other characters is just a new experience. So yeah, it just feels very real. It feels very interesting in that way, because you can have a scene where a character comes in and he's talking to the love of his life, possibly, and he has this pocket knife that he keeps opening his pocket knife and closing it and opening it and closing it, and she's just mending her dress, and there's something so magical and mundane at the same time and real about it.
Favorite thing about the movie is like it feels like a movie.
And I just, yeah, it's in that way that a classic has that ability, where the writer is just very intelligent and very powerful. So I enjoyed both of these. I will say, like, pretty much always it's easier for me to get through a book like this because it's not a classic and my brain is just not trained to read classic writing as smoothly. But I got equal yet different things from both books. If you are looking into reading something that is more contemporary and poetic and to do with pop culture, and you're interested in Hollywood and LA and that kind of history, then I feel like you'd very much enjoy this book. But if you are looking for a classic and one that's not super long and one that doesn't feel super intense to achieve, I was very impressed by Mrs. Dalloway, and I think that if you're just looking for something gentle almost, if you're looking for something simple that still has an effect, then Mrs. Dalloway would kind of fit more into that. I hope that either one of those sounds interesting to you, or that if you were debating one of those books, you are going to give them a try.